On this episode of the NHC GOP podcast, that you are our Republican write-in candidate, but you are not showing up on the ballot. That's going to be a tough lift.
It is a tough lift. Every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's my paraphrase version of it. And the same thing goes with a regulation. They either reduce their employees, and so families suffer because doesn't have a job.
There is no doubt that the American family has taken a hit in the last 50 or 60 years.
A strong family is the foundation for a strong community. I am an advocate for school choice.
Welcome to the NHC GOP podcast. I'm Will Sample. I'm welcoming to the show a man who is standing up, and it takes a lot of guts to stand up, to run for a position after realizing that nobody else has stood up to run for that position. I'm talking about Wallace West, who is running for District 18 State Representative. Wallace, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Will. It's my pleasure to be here.
And as I introduced you, I did say that you're standing up because you didn't go through the primaries, because you didn't realize some things that were going on. The redistricting was going on here in North Carolina, and that left no Republicans running for District 18. And so the primaries happened, and then you stepped into the race because you saw that District 18 was just going to be represented by a very liberal politician yet once again.
So, you give me a little bit too much credit there, and that when it came to my attention, as you probably know, the maps for the redistricting maps weren't released until the end of June, and
Yes.
so and I was in District 19. I was in Charlie Miller's district before that, and so a few days, maybe a week after the maps, new maps at the last week of June were released. I had a call from a couple of different people and say, "Hey, the new under the new maps, you're in District 18, and what do you think about running against Deb Butler?" And so I said, "Well, I really was actually flabbergasted, to tell you the truth." And when I had when I had two people ask me, I said maybe I really need to think about this. And so it's really it's kind of interesting story, and I don't want to belabor the point, but. I from time to time, I have the privilege of being able to bring the message at our church. And so last year, I was able to preach 3 times, and I essentially preached on biblical citizenship. And so, as I'm considering this question that was asking me, would you consider running against Deb Butler? And I said, well, let me think about that and pray about it, talk to my family. And the reality is we couldn't. Everybody came to the same conclusion: is why not? So that was where we all ended up, And so I called and began to check, see what I needed to do, and went through the process. It is not an easy process to get from one end to the other. It took me about 30 days to navigate through the local and the state Board of Elections requirements to count my votes. And in order, you have to meet file certain forms and do certain things in a certain way. And so that was an education in and of itself. So anyway, it was the end of July before I was ready, that we were ready to go. And so we had a lot of work to do in a short period of time.
The tough thing about a write-in candidate is that your name is not on the ballot. Now, I want to emphasize to people that you have been endorsed by the New Hanover County Republican Party. We are saying that you are our candidate. You are our Republican write-in candidate, but you are not showing up on the ballot. That's going to be a tough lift.
It is a tough lift, and statistically, it's not easy. And people do have success with it. and although it's a very small percentage, and so, but I was aware of that going into it. I feel called to do it, and as I mentioned, I figured that I couldn't find a reason not to do it, especially when I put in perspective that I'm challenging other people to do this, to step up, and I have an opportunity. I couldn't say no, and so I'm trusting that um, we are able to raise up the volunteers that we need, and uh, you know, the I am a man of faith, and there's a story in the Bible about Gideon, and many of your viewers may know about Gideon. It's found in Judges chapter 6 and 7, and God called Gideon as a prophet to gather an army to defend the Israelites against the Midianites, and he could muster up about 300,000 people. Well, he ended up with 300. And so he goes to war against the Midianites, who were like locusts, as they were so large in number.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and so the 300 men walked away with victory. And so so we're praying for Gideon's army to come and help us educate the people in District 18, that they have to write my name on the ballot, and it is a heavy lift.
Well, well,
But
like you, I am also in your district, and I used to be represented by Ted Davis, and now I am unfortunately represented by Deb Butler. And I don't want Deb Butler in there. I want a good conservative Republican in there, and that's what you are. And that's what I'm looking forward to. There are cases across the country. The most the most the most famous one, it would be Murkowski
that's
from
correct.
Alaska,
That's
where
correct. Hmm.
she was a write-in candidate,
Yeah,
and she overcame amazing odds and got reelected.
yeah. She did have several $1 million behind her, I don't know that I'm going to be able to raise several $1 million, but Deb Butler can be beat. She is beatable. I'm convinced of that. This is a winnable race,
Well,
and it may I may have to do it twice. I may have to go back a second time and get my name on the ballot, but I'm committed to do that.
Well, the night is still young on that $1 million. We'll see what we can do by the end of our
All
podcast.
right,
So,
all right. uh,
Wallace, you are a Wilmington native. You are a business owner. You and your family have invested yourself here in Wilmington. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I am a Wilmington native. Went through the public schools, New Hanover County public schools, and went to Wilmington College for 2 years, and then transferred to the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. And I met my wife there. She wasn't a student. She was a child bride, but she was still in high school when we started dating.
Okay.
And we're blessed to have be married, have 59 years right now. Be 60
Congratulations.
years in January, and we have two wonderful kids, and who are married to some real fine men, and two granddaughters who we love dearly. And my kids live here in Wilmington, and we did raise them, our children, in the Resource Triangle area. That's where Gail was from, Durham, and so we raised our kids there. And we moved here in 2000, and I had property here before then, and maintained it for a time. And then we moved, like I said, we moved here in 2000, and we started a business after I came here, and which was blessed, and many times over. And we started without just me and one other person started the business, and when I transitioned it to my kids, we had 3 offices in 2 states, and 26 people to work for us.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so it was one of those. It was an incredible story, and it was a God thing, and so it was. We were just blessed, and we're grateful to have been a part of this community to do that. And we uh, I love Wilmington. My kids knew from the time they were born almost that we would end up back here, and so when we moved here, they moved here.
The reason I the reason I ask about your background is that your background actually forms the three platforms that you are really standing up for. You mentioned your family. And one of your major issues, major platforms, is all about family values and the strength of the family.
Hmm.
There is no doubt that the American family has taken a hit in the last 50 or 60 years. Why is it so important that families be put first in our politics and in our communities?
That's because family is the foundation for a strong community.
Hmm.
A strong family is the foundation for a strong community. And in my business, I employed s- uh, single parents. Yeah,
Hmm.
I had a young lady who had a child, and she's supporting them. And there was um, I had multiple occasions when that would happen, and it's in reverse of that, where we had the father who was looking after the kids, and they work hard, and they struggle, and they go home and they have to have to be everything to their kids. So my heart goes out to them, and but I think that you would agree with me that over time, and particularly the social programs that came in the Johnson administration and after that have really
Hmm.
undermined the family in many ways and have compromised the strength of the family, and that so by virtue of that, we see communities that are not uh, now we see them that they're not pulling together. It's all about me, and it's all about my rights, not your rights, and it just creates it weakens us as a community.
Time and time again, we see when young kids, especially young males, don't have a family, is that they find that family in gangs. They find it in other areas that are actual absolutely destructive to the community. And what you are saying is that we have promoted a culture where family is not seen as important anymore. I mean, you look on television shows and everything else, family is almost made fun of on a constant basis.
Right? Exactly. It's very true.
So one of the ways to regain family values goes into your second area, and that's economics, because one of the things that kills families are the economic policies of the state and of the federal level, and even communities. What is your plan to encourage economic growth here in North Carolina?
Well, I think a good starting place to encourage economic growth is to support reforms that focus on uh, building up and strengthening small businesses so that they can
Hmm.
grow and expand, hire more people, pay more money, offer benefits. I know in my own business, as an example, I mean, it was we'd been in business for when my wife and I transitioned out of the business. We had been in business right at 20 years in that particular
Hmm.
enterprise. And it wasn't until we'd been in business 10, 12 years before we could actually offer benefits to our, and because of the regulations in large part kept us from being able to reinvest in the business in a way, such a way into people in the business enterprise. And so tax reform is particularly for small businesses. I think most people are not aware that 99% of the of the businesses in North Carolina, 99% of them qualify as small businesses, over 99%. And they employ over a million people in that workforce, which is about 40 to 44% of the workforce that's non-government in North Carolina. And that's small
The
businesses.
amazing thing And the amazing thing about that is that these are small businesses that run from one person. I'm a small business owner. I'm one person
Hmm.
to your size of small business, and you sounds like you had several people that you hired, up to 300 people or so. And the problem with small business is that they cannot absorb the cost of regulations, whether it be high regulations on whatever it might be, even the cost of healthcare that because of whatever, there's no competition within a particular state for healthcare. Small businesses have taken a beating because of the high cost of doing business that
Yeah,
corporations can absorb.
right. And that's very true. And you mentioned healthcare and how small businesses have difficulty accessing healthcare. And I remember, in the 80s, this we as a trade group that I was a trade the association I was a part of, we were able to come together and form our own health insurance program and provide health insurance because there were people like you and me, one or two people, and they didn't have health care, and so the association itself was able to provide health care program that was comparable to a larger business that for its one or two employees or three or four, however many it had, and then when managed care came along, that said, the law changed, and those associations lost the privilege of being able to do that business over time. It was over a time period. In the 90s is when that transitioned to what we have today. And it's just been recently that now associations are now able to offer uh, health care to their members again.
One of
Not,
the strengths is
not,
one of the strengths of small business has always been its ability to be flexible, whether it's meeting a niche within its own business or taking care of its employees. Small businesses have always tried to take care of their employees, but as costs rise or minimum wage rises or whatever, small businesses can't keep up.
yeah, you're exactly right. It's very, very difficult. And um, most small businesses are operating on tight margins. They're not like a big business that has the leverage, to get better pricing on all the at all times. And so you're exactly right. And small businesses get taxed uh, inordinately in many
Mhm.
ways because most of us as small businesses, we're subchapter S or we're an LLC, and in those instances that income inures to you as an individual. So you may have a corporation, but you pay the taxes.
Well, let's talk about some of those tax reforms that you're looking at. Is that you're eliminating the capital gains tax and franchise tax. Now, this is actually not only just a North Carolina issue, but this is a national issue, as the Democratic candidate is saying that she wants to tax unrealized net gains or capital gains, and that affects small business.
Uh,
Talk about that a little bit more.
yeah, it's a good point. It does affect small business really in a large way, and most people don't understand what that means. And in theory, businesses as they mature and grow, they gain in value. They gain value on there as far as the worth of the net worth of the business if it were to be sold. And unrealized capital gains is that growth in value. And taxing that growth in value every year based upon some unknown quantity uh, that of growth that's going to happen over a 10-year period of time, you may hit a recession and that business may go down in the tubes. And I've been there and done that. So I mean, I've seen that happen and experienced it myself. Started over 3 times. So uh, the last one was a charm. Third time's a charm, man. But my priorities were different the third time too, so that made a difference too. But by the growth in taxing the growth in capital gains is just it's arbitrary. It's an arbitrary tax that's assessed against business owners that they may have to pay twice when they actually sell their business for less. If you get
And these valuations are not determined by any market. They are determined by a tax agency someplace. They are
correct,
determined by a bureaucracy.
that's right.
And what can you do about that at the state level?
Well, you can. Well, currently, the way that investments in, say, in a small business work is that you when you liquidate or sell the business to someone else, you have to pay taxes on the gain that you made on your investment. Just like if you were investing in stock and over a period of time, you realized a gain of 20% or 30% or what have you on your original investment. And so North Carolina, just like most states, has a tax on the capital gain, the gain you earned on your investment in the business. And so we could either eliminate that or certainly reduce it to help small businesses retain owners like you and me of small businesses when we decide to move on. And if I will tell you that the combined state and federal capital gains tax is over 40%. Okay, so if you earned just use $100,000. If you gained $100,000, you're going to pay almost $40,000 of that when all is said and done. And now keep in mind, you've already paid every year. You pay taxes on the money you earned, so you're double taxed. You're double taxed.
And see, and why this is important, even if you're not a small business owner, the reason why this is important is twofold. Number one, those taxes have to be passed on somehow.
Correct.
They have to be made up for somehow. And so small businesses are forced to either increase costs or reduce employees, because employees are one of the biggest costs of any small businesses, or small businesses just go out of business.
Correct on all those fronts. And
simply because nothing that they've done, it's simply because it's just become too expensive for them to be in business.
Right. That's exactly right. And so essentially eliminating the capital gains or reducing it, or the state portion of it, because and certainly at the federal level, we'd like to reduce that as well. And just kind of a excuse me, a heads up from people hear that 40% and they get frightened. Well, it's reality, but if you plan ahead, you can mitigate that so that it's not as big a hit. But most small businesses don't think about it until they get ready to get out, and then it's too late.
Well, let's bring this home a little bit. Is that if you are in District 18, you might be saying, "Well, I don't own a small business. This doesn't apply to me." However, you have a 99% chance that you're actually working for a small business.
Correct.
The person who fixes your plumbing is a small business. The electrician who comes to your house to fix your electricity is a small business. And so this is a big, huge issue.
It is a big, huge issue. And what happens to the business enterprise, that's a cost that they have to, as you pointed out so well, pass on to the consumers. It happens, and either they reduce They either reduce their employees, and so families suffer because dad's not doesn't have a job, or
Hmm.
mom's job, goes away, but for the same reason. And so it does affect individuals, and it does affect families, and it
It does
also,
affect the families,
yeah,
yeah.
and it can retard the growth in income because small businesses struggle to pay comparable wages as it is, and to get benefits. And so if you put a squeeze on the profitability or the margins that a business has, it doesn't have that money to reinvest in the people that it hires.
One of the myths about Republicans running for office when we talk about rules and regulations and taxes is that we are often seen as wanting a wild, wild west of capitalism. And that's not what Republicans are advocating. That's not what you are advocating. There is a place for regulations. There is
Yes,
a place for taxes. But what's the balance?
it's a good question, and the and I don't know if I have a quick answer for that, rule. So what the balance is, but I think that if we reduce regulations, then we're able to reduce government.
Yes.
Okay, and so those people who may work in a government, so remember, 55% of the people in North Carolina get a government paycheck of some sort, and so the they may be wondering, well, gosh, if you reduce government, then I don't have a job. Well, that's not necessarily so, because then businesses thrive and they're able to hire those people and put them to work. And so we can have a strong government by making it lean and mean and having accountability, and let people in government run their departments and run government like you run your own enterprise or your own household. Be
Boy, imagine if that would happen. Government efficiency would just, if they would start running it like businesses would run it, which is why people like you who are businessmen are running for positions in government, is
Yeah,
that you know how to balance a checkbook. You put people to work. You know the impact of out of control regulations and out of control taxes.
yeah. And there are a lot of regulations that were well-meaning, but
Hmm.
another challenge that people in government have, because they uh, haven't had the experience of maybe experiences that I have had, and that you and other small business people have had, is you have to be able to look beyond next year and the next year. You've got to have a vision and understand the consequences of your actions. And
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with Newton's laws of motion, but his third law of motion says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's my paraphrase version of it. And the same thing goes with a regulation. Okay? For
Unfor-
every regulation that we put in has a equal and opposite force against it, and we have to be careful not to about doing regulations. And even the ones that we cut, when we get ready to cut those regulations, they have to be done well, so that you don't have a reaction that's negative, and you can mitigate that.
One of your other major platforms is education, and the big thing that Republicans got through in their budget last year and continue to fight for is this whole idea of school choice. Now, here in New Hanover County, we've got three great candidates running for the Board of Education. But school choice is a big issue for parents who want to be able to send their kids to other kinds of schools. Where are you on school choice?
I'm a advocate for school choice, and I think the opportunity scholarships that are part of our school choice program and programming, as it were, are great things. And I have a friend who has a child has learning disabilities, and our public schools don't have the teachers are there to teach the curriculum, and they don't have the skill set. They may have the heart and desire, but they don't have the skill set to minister to those people, whether it's ADHD or whether it's some autism or some other learning disability a child may have, and so charter schools or a private school, often many of those are set up specifically to minister to or to help teach and help those children grow and learn in their environment. And there's a place certainly for public education in the government arena, as it were. And I applaud those teachers who dedicate their lives. My granddaughter is a Spanish teacher in Mecklenburg school system and teaches high school Spanish. So I mean, I love teachers, believe me. And so I'm not against public education as such, and we send our kids to both private school and public school. We put them in the public school system when they got to be high school age, and that worked well for us and for our kids. But I believe that there are a lot of opportunities that a lot of educational opportunities. We need to provide as many educational opportunities that help children grow and learn and be contributing citizens as we can. And school choice is a large part of that.
One of those parts of school choice is charter schools.
Yes.
And you have pointed out a disparity that charter schools face in school districts across North Carolina, and that's in reception of state funding. So what is that disparity with charter schools, and why are charter schools important?
Well, the disparity has to do with the way that the local systems administer the funds that they have that are provided by the state and their respective counties for funding the educational programs. And there's the formula that they use to redistribute the money, which should be equal to what their per student funds. It's based upon my research. It's my understanding that there is a disparity in that funding mechanism. Oftentimes, I'm not saying New Hanover County is guilty of it. I'm just saying that as a rule, because of the public education as a whole, that particularly the Teachers Association, they're not in favor of charter schools, and so so anyway, funding is one way to make it more difficult for charter schools.
Well, let's be fair. The teacher's education is not for school choice either,
Right.
and in reality, school choice is actually strengthens both private and public schools because the money in the end follows the child.
Yes, absolutely, it does. And if we are able to educate our children in such a way that they become more responsible and productive in our society, we're strengthening families in the end.
We talked earlier about small businesses, specifically plumbers, contractors, electricians. One of the big things that you talk about is workforce education, strengthening the trades. We as a country are finally realizing that college might not be for everybody, but how can you strengthen a trade-oriented education here in North Carolina?
Right. Well, you can one good place to start is in the public school system and also in the community college system to introduce and expand the work-based programs, educational programs for kids. When I was going to high school and junior high too, I actually started in junior high. When I was going to high school, when my kids went to high school, you could there were they had trade programs that they had shop, okay, and in shop
Hmm.
you had the carpentry type trades, and then you had the mechanical type trades, and you were able to take those courses that you might have an interest in. And for the young ladies or for men who might have an interest in home ec, you had home ec, and
Hmm.
those courses don't exist for the most part in public schools arena today. But
You see, that blows my mind.
we can
That
reinstitute
blows
them.
my mind, Wallace. That blows my mind because I in middle school I had to go through home ec. I had to sew a bag. I don't know what happened to it. I had to learn how to cook. I also went to shop and made something. I can't remember what it was. But and you're saying we no longer have that in our classrooms?
As it's my understanding that it's not part of the curriculum as a norm, and certainly that could vary by county. I can't speak for all the counties, but that's my understanding based upon my research, and I'm being interested in. I mean, this is a really um, something I'm interested in because our business was a construction related business, and so we had to depend upon tradespeople. Yeah, and finding qualified tradespeople or people who were interested or had some experience is very, very difficult, and it continues to be, and it continues to be very challenging for small businesses today, and whether you're in construction or whether you're in another business enterprise. But and so I think integrating those programs back in and having, I know that Cape Fear Community Colleges has a great workforce related programs. They're trying to strengthen their programs as well. And but we as in we as a society and as a culture and as a community, we need to recognize that, as you pointed out earlier, that college is not for everyone, and particularly when you're going to walk away with a $150,000 to $200,000 bill that somehow or another you got to get paid back, unless or the taxpayers get to pay it back, depending upon who's in office. But fortunately, when I borrowed money my last semester, my last year in school, and I've had to pay every bit of it back. And I have a daughter who borrowed money to go to the veterinary school, and she's still paying it back. And so it is. I hear these stories of how much people owe, and it just breaks my heart for them because I know they're not going to be able to buy that house because they owe as much on their education as they could for almost as their house that they're trying to buy. Again,
Talking
it's
to
about
Wallace
strengthening families.
We're talking to Wallace West, who is the write-in candidate for District 18. He has been endorsed by the New Hanover County Republican Party, but you're not going to see him on the ballot. We're talking about family, we're talking about economic growth, we're talking about school choice and how all of that affects family values. And there's one area that I want to talk with you also is your whole platform on the criminal code reform and community policing. That's all. That seems sort of we're not encouraging vigilantes, right? But
Correct.
we are talking about communities gathering together to make sure that they are safe.
Correct. Yeah. Public safety is again a concern for me because again it's part of supporting families and of protecting
Hmm.
families, and gangs and the human trafficking, and especially grieves me. We live here in Wilmington, and we're like number three in the country in the instance of human trafficking and drug issues related to the drug trade, and those are things that eat away at family and weaken the family environment. I personally know a half a dozen kids who are new, either the parent or the grandparent or knew the child who overdosed right here in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it's just heartbreaking. And so we need to strengthen our our public safety system. We need to get the resources for the law enforcement give them more the funding they need to do the job that they need to do. They're perfectly capable, but I learned one of my son-in-laws was ex-law enforcement, and I was having a conversation with him about this topic, and he gave me a lot of insight and that about the various departments of government, whether it's federal, state, or local government, particularly in the cases of drug enforcement and human trafficking. You would think that they would come together as a team and work together for the benefit of all. But there seems to be some territorial issues that emerge over time as those groups try to work together, and they don't necessarily share information or their resources, particularly technical resources. And there's a lot of great technology out there. And for instance, okay, we have a port here, as I mentioned, and there's no way that customs enforcement can inspect every one of those containers that comes in on that ship. But
we get hundreds that come in every day.
Right. But if we have, if we can scan if we have software that can scan what you put in your shopping cart at the grocery store, and you just walk out and hand them run your debit card and you're done. Nothing comes out of the cart. It all stays right there. We can scan.
Right.
We can scan one of those containers as it's coming off the ship, but it costs money. But
so you're saying the technology is there. We just need the funds to put it in place.
Somebody has to have the vision to be able to apply it for those types of purposes. And in the same way with drugs, you scan it for drugs, right? Even if you weighed it, okay, because a human body weighs a lot different than something that's stacked full of furniture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can question the contents just by weight disparity, and equipping these cranes with a mechanism that does that. And these are just kind of brainstorming things that it seems to me that could apply, and so those types of things there are available at different level in different departments and levels of government. But they don't always get down to the local people who actually are the boots on the ground trying to do that law enforcement. So, and you mentioned the criminalization. It's my based upon my research. We keep adding to the criminal code, but we don't take anything away. We don't revise it based upon current data and norms and things like that. And so sometimes an offender will get charged inappropriately. And I'll give you an example. For a crime to become a felony now, if for stealing, it has to exceed $1,000. Okay, it's a misdemeanor before then. So, so if you have somebody that steals is a first-time offender, okay, who steals $1,000 worth of merchandise, he gets caught.
Yes.
He has a mandatory sentence of 2 years. Then you got this kid or it doesn't have to be a kid, this other thief, as it were, who's been arrested for stealing 6 times. And he's stealing $300, $400, $500 at a time. It's a misdemeanor. He gets slapped on the wrist, and he gets probation. Now, who's the worst offender? The habitual criminal or the kid that did it once?
And I'm thinking $1,000. That's a cell phone. Is that you're not? That's not.
Yeah, it's just exactly. So you're right.
You're not saying let him get away with it.
No.
You're not saying that he shouldn't have consequences.
Right.
But to put a first-time offender in jail for something like that, all he does is he learns how to be a better criminal.
I've heard that. So yeah, and because who's in there? The criminals, right?
Other criminals.
Yeah,
That's yeah,
exactly.
and or is that you've destroyed a kid, you've destroyed a family, you've destroyed everything
Hmm.
just because nobody's looked at that. That's amazing. And if you're living in District 18, you've got to understand that this stuff comes home to you. The human trafficking
Hmm.
comes home. From what I understand, the Walmart right down the street from me is one of the biggest areas for human trafficking,
Yep.
and we're not equipped to do that. And I want to remind folks is that that last year the Republican-controlled supermajority was able to pass a budget that increased public safety spending, but more needs to be done.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you're up against your defund the police. They want to put forward things like not allowing ICE and sheriffs to talk to each other, and that's not what you're for.
Nope. Nope. Old-fashioned police work sometimes is better. And I'm not that I'm for old-fashioned stuff. That's not my point. But we are doing everything we can, to the progressive wing of of politics is doing everything it can to destroy the family.
Which destroys small business, which destroys in the end our state and our country.
Right.
And
And
you're standing up now.
we're blessed and for our kids to live here, and we interact with them all the time. We see them frequently and speak to them every day, and I know every family can't enjoy that, but my desire would be every family would have an opportunity to do that.
Now you are running a candidacy that's all about writing in, but even you need a budget and you need supporters. So how can people find out more about you and how can they support you in this candidacy?
You can go to my website, writeinwallacewest.com, writeinwallacewest.com, and you can volunteer your time to help us canvass neighborhoods, and you can also donate right there online to our campaign and help us fund and do the things that we need to do to win this campaign. We're looking now at I'm pricing now and trying to do add in some direct mail and some other pieces that are actually get pretty costly and into our budget. And so I'm looking to raise money for that to so that we can hit every household in the district with 3 or 4 different mailings to let them know, hey, write in Wallace West, write in Wallace West, and repetition, repetition, repetition. And we're trying to reinforce that message. And
You're going to be
and
out
we're doing
there.
it through social media. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us at Write In Wallace West or Vote Wallace West on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and follow us there and stay plugged into what we're doing and how we're doing it.
You have more information about Wallace at our website, and we'll make sure that your website is in the show notes as we publish this throughout all of our podcast mediums. Wallace, I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, thank you very much, Roll. It's been a real pleasure to be here and interact with you. And I'm not a politician. I've never sought political office before. But as I mentioned earlier, I feel really called to do this. And the me part wanted to find a reason not to do it, but I just couldn't find one. So but I'm having a great time. My wife is committed to it just like I am. We're having a great time, and our kids are behind us 100%, and my faith community is behind us, and so we go out there every day knowing that. And it gives us renewed energy every day for the fight.
Wallace West, the write-in candidate for District 18 here in New Hanover County. Thank you for being on the podcast. All the best to you. We're going to get you on before the elections, but thank you very much for joining us tonight.
You bet. Thank you. My pleasure.